Thank you for this gift for all of us. It's crazy, wild, fun, meta.
Sure. I mean, Tom and I had made a television show, and he came to me as we were wrapping it up, and he said, we were walking around a lot, and he said, I have a kernel of an idea. It's a movie where Nick Cage plays Nick Cage. And I said, yes, I'm in.
Well, then he said, do you know Nick Cage? And
yeah.
I said, no, I never met him before. I don't know him. So then we just started writing it. We were like, it's a colossally stupid decision, which worked out nicely. I can't believe that we're here premiering this movie.
Well, it's interesting that they were doing all this without my knowledge whatsoever. And when I first heard about it, I said, no, I'm not doing that. And then asked again, I'm not interested in playing myself in a movie. Get somebody else. If Gene Wilder was still with us, I'd like you to cast him. And then Tom wrote me a very thoughtful, very enthusiastic letter, and I realized that he wasn't trying to do like a Andy Samberg SNL sketch mocking whatever so-called Nick Cage is, but that he actually was interested in some of the earlier work and wanted to maybe showcase that and bring some of that in, the gold guns and the references to some of the other movies. And I thought, okay, well, this guy is serious and he's intelligent, so that's what did it. That I wanted to do it. And I wanted to play Nicky. I thought Nicky was fascinating, the young version. And then he wrote these beautiful vignettes, which you might hopefully get to see in the Blu-ray at some point, of the cabin of Dr. Caligari. And so you have Ben Sanderson in Caligari makeup and black and white. You have Castor Troy in Caligari makeup and black and white. And you have Memphis Reigns in Caligari makeup and black and white. That was so cool to me, and that's why I really wanted to make the movie. So.
Yeah. Release the Caligari cut.
I begged him, basically, is what he's not saying. Yeah, getting him to come on board and say yes and shape the character. Some of the most interesting moments, I think, for me were when the real Nicolas Cage and the Nicolas Cage that we created started to intersect, and they were sort of fascinating moments on set. One in particular I tell people is when he's at a low point in this movie, and he walks into the pool, and it's a shot from Leaving Las Vegas, and that's sort of a high point in Nick's career, and it's the lowest point in this movie. And we were about to shoot it, and I was explaining to Nick, I said, so you're gonna come in, you're gonna go into the pool, and you're gonna be down at the bottom, and he goes, let me stop you right there. Like, I know, I've already done it.
But I didn't do it with Pedro Pascal.
That's right.
This movie wouldn't work without Pedro. What he brought
In
was
regards to that
incredible.
scene, though, I was like, I saw the scene, I know what to do. They were like, you need to dive into. I was like, I got it.
The best Elizabeth Shue of all time.
It was a perfect Elizabeth Shue.
Well, the chemistry is so fantastic with both of you. And so when did Pedro come into the equation?
Well, I've been telling the story that we got to have lunch with Pedro, and part of what we found out was that he was such a huge Nick Cage fan when we met him, and so there was a reality to that from the jump. So when his name was in the mix, we went, God, this feels right.
Not a ton of acting there. Yeah, he was really.
Strip it back and just.
I knew more about Nicolas Cage movies than they did. I was like, that came out in 1987.
So there was a whole lot of fun shit in this movie that all of us, I hope you got the love from us that we all wanted to get to you. I wonder what was the funnest shit for each of you to do in the movie, if there was a particular scene to shoot, a sequence to shoot, something that you got to do that maybe you've never gotten to do on screen for the actors. Just pick something.
Well, I mean, for me, I genuinely enjoyed my conversations with Pedro, and so many of our interests are cinema related, and we would talk about, I was interested in J-horror, he was interested in some of the Spanish horror, and we'd give each other recommendations. So a lot of what you see in the movie was actually happening when we weren't on set or acting. It was actually the genuine conversation. I thought that was interesting. So it was sort of like no acting, please, you know. I enjoyed that.
J-horror and Spanish horror was around Halloween while we were doing it, so it was like, watch this on Halloween, and I was like, you watch this on Halloween.
So I asked you to watch The Cure, and you asked me to watch which
Fancies.
one? Yeah, and both were, I think you liked The Cure, and I love that movie, so. It was just life imitating art or art imitating life. It was bizarre, but that's what it was.
And for the rest of you, Lily or?
I mean, getting shot by Nick Cage was pretty cool. Yeah, the film was originally going to be called The Hole in Carlos's Chest, but they thought better.
Definitely shouting at him was like, I was petrified. I didn't want to shout at him when he was in the bed. Because I was like, hey guys, should I just be a little bit softer? I didn't want to like disturb him. And I was like, no, go for it. So I think that was my funniest moment for myself. Because it was like, wow.
Yeah, just being able to act with Nick and the rest of the cast was unbelievable. And like, I know I'll never have this experience again or anything similar. So it was so lucky to be like straight out the gate into like a dream cast. It was amazing.
Excellent. Go ahead.
Of course.
Thank you, Mr. Cage. I love the outfit. I don't have a question for you, but I do have a rose.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm a big fan of shortbread, so I wanted to wear my shortbread tin can looking outfit, like my plaid. I was looking for a time to break out my plaid, and I couldn't think of a better place to do it than South by, so thank you. Thank you for noticing.
Mr. Cage, in the past you've said that you were inspired by or draw from other performances for your performances, such as the Cocteau Beauty and the Beast for Moonstruck, or Ringu for your upcoming role as Count Dracula. What can you possibly draw from or be inspired by for these two Nick Cages in the film?
Well, one of the main reasons why I wanted to make this movie, and there was a little more of this character in some of the earlier cuts, but I love the Nicky character. I named him Nicky. Originally, it was just young Nick Cage, and I looked at an old interview I did in England on the Wogan show, where I was literally front handspringing. I was promoting Wild at Heart, front handspringing, doing karate kicks, throwing money out at the audience. I go, well, that guy is a really obnoxious, arrogant, irreverent madman, and I think he needs to be in this movie. So that was the inspiration for young Nick. They were talking a little bit about like Cameron Poe from Con Air. I said, but that's cool, but that's not Nick. That's Con Air. That's Cameron Poe. That was Nick. That was Nick in 1990, and I'm so glad I'm nothing like that person anymore. But I was happy to bring him back. The other inspirations, you know, I've been, as you hopefully may have noticed, I've been trying to get back into my dramatic roots and back into my independent interest, which is my base. You know, I'm always going to go back to that. But I was thinking a lot about Tony Curtis and how Tony Curtis could play the Boston Strangler, and then he could be in movies like Sweet Smell of Success and Some Like It Hot. And I was like, well, that guy has range. Let's get back to some comedy, and let's flex a little bit, do the comedy and the drama. So thankfully, Kevin and Tom allowed me to do that with this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. First off, I love this film. This was fantastic. This was such a blast. Great cast. Great chemistry. Just so wonderfully meta. I loved it. My question's for Nick and for Tom as well. There's so many references to all the Nicolas Cage movies, which is fantastic, and they were beautifully done and just very poetic. What I wanted to ask, was there any reference from any of your movies that got left off that you wanted to keep, maybe something to expect in the Blu-ray?
Well, I made sure we had some sort of reference to The Wicker Man. I threw the not the bees bit in at the end. How can you make this sort of movie about so-called Nick Cage and not say not the bees, you know? So I put that in, made sure of that. And then I wanted to throw in the bit with Bugs Bunny was kissing everybody in Looney Tunes. I thought, well, I should have Nicky kiss Nick in this, and that wasn't in the script, so that was fun. And
That was a
Kevin
Nicolas
added some
Cage
details
idea.
to that.
That was absolutely
It's the thing you only get with Nick is he comes and says, "Hey, Tom, I'd like to French kiss myself." And I said, "Well, that sounds like a great idea." But it was COVID, so we had to really figure out how to do that.
It was so symbolic of what was kind of happening. It's like, I'm actually making a movie about two versions of myself. What am I doing? I mean, it's just like making out with yourself in the weirdest way. So we might as well do that symbolically and have them kiss each other. So that's what happened.
We did have a fun moment where he had finished, and then he was like, "All right, I don't know if this is going to be good. Let me see this." And he came over to the monitor, and he watched it, and he said, "Oh, well, I like that." And it's in the film.
That scene was so perfect. Thank you.
These are the last two. Go ahead. Go ahead, you, and then your last.
Yes, first of all, Mr. Cage, I will never forget the first time my dad showed me Birdie. That is a memory that will live in my head forever, so thank you.
Thank you for watching. Thank you, Dad, too.
And the question is it strange at all playing a version of yourself that is written by somebody else?
What was that line that Jeremy Irons said in that movie that they shot in Rhode Island? He said, one actor says, "A reversal of fortune." And one actor says, "You're a very strange man." And he looks at him and goes, "You have no idea." That's how strange. You have no idea. It was a high wire. It was terrifying. No muscle in my body told me to play any version of myself in a movie, and because it scared the crap out of me, I knew I had to do it.
I will, I'd add one thing to that. He would often come over and say to us, he goes, "Well, there's a guy who lives in Las Vegas and wears leather jackets and rings, and he wouldn't say that." And I'm like, "Oh, you mean you?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Well, it's not you. It's a character based on you." And he would go, "He has my name." And I'd be like, "Well, just come on, man. Just do the line."
Because you never like to call yourself in the first, like, "Oh, I'm Nick Cage," things. I mean, you don't want to say that. You don't want to talk. It's just the epitome of egotistical. So I would say, "Well, I know this guy that lives in Las Vegas, Nevada. He has a leather jacket. He likes to wear some gold jewelry. He wouldn't want me to say that."
See, this is the Cage I love. Neurotic Cage. And I said to him, "Neurotic Cage is the best Cage. I think about you perhaps more than you think about you," which is weird for both of us, but I think that's the best Cage. And then we would just start laughing, and then we would do the scene.
This is what happened. I call him the mind because all this is coming from his mind. This is his interpretation of me. And I said, "But Tom, I actually have really quiet moments at home reading with my cat." And I go, "Well, don't you want to put anything like that?" "No, it's not fun. Neurotic Cage is the best Nick Cage."
It's the best Cage, I'm telling you. I'm telling you, it's the best Cage. Very slowly, you're going to become the character from the movie.
Go ahead.
Hey, y'all. I want to say acting was phenomenal from everybody, directing the best. Thank you so much, Mr. Cage, for all the years of content. I know my posters have caught some eyes. They seem to have worked well.
You're the fan who's competing with me.
Right. Thank you for posting it. I appreciate
stop
that.
cramping my style, bro.
I'm sorry. I want to say the last two roles you had, more Mark styled, more little dialogue, action speaking louder than words. Wondering if you love that style and if there's any sort of style or genre of acting that you want to get into that you haven't necessarily been able to dive into yet.
Well, I have never done a musical.
Perfect.
And I guess in some ways there was singing. I was singing in Wild at Heart, but I'd like to try something like that. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank y'all very much.
It's good to know.
So we're not big on awards here. We don't. I mean, we have the awards for the films in competition, but we don't honor people. Except we decided to honor you tonight with 40 years of massive talent. It's a belt buckle. It's one of the South by Southwest awards.
Yes. Thank you. Look at that. Oh, thank you. Please. You guys are real. You're genuine enthusiasts. This festival, South by, It's enthusiastic about movies. It's enthusiastic about music. It's enthusiastic about gaming. It's enthusiastic about all the creative arts. And because of this, I'm going to wear this. I'm gonna wear it at dinner. I'm gonna wear it at the grocery store. I'm gonna wear it at 7-Eleven. And this is gonna encourage me to keep trying to surprise you and entertain you. And I thank you.